There's a special kind of exhaustion, not physical, not even mental. It's relational. The exhaustion that comes from people who think you're closer than you are. They text constantly, show up unannounced, overshare, demand emotional labour you never agreed to provide. And the worst part, they think you're best friends. You think you're hostages. This is Overthinking Department, where we talk about the friendships that feel more like unpaid therapy sessions. Let's discuss emotional vampires who don't know they're draining you. Friendship is supposed to be reciprocal. You give. They give. It balances. Except, some people don't give. They take, and they don't even realise they're doing it. They call you when they're upset, text you when they need advice, vent for an hour about their problems, and you listen, because that's what friends do. But when you need support, they're busy, distracted. They respond with, OMG, that's rough, and immediately pivot back to themselves. Or worse, they're there for you, but they make it about them. I totally get it. When I went through something similar, and suddenly you're comforting them about your problem. That's not friendship, that's emotional labour disguised as connection. But here's the trick, they don't see it. In their mind, you're close. They share everything with you, they trust you, they rely on you. From their perspective, you're best friends. From your perspective, you're exhausted. And you can't even explain why. Because what are you supposed to say? You drain me? This friendship is one-sided. I feel like your unpaid therapist. Lame? You can't because they'd be hurt, confused, defensive. But I thought we were close. You are close. Just not in the way they think. Dembour, they're close to you. You're just tired of them. Some people are black holes, not intentionally, not maliciously. They're just need, endless, insatiable need. They need validation, reassurance, attention. And they've identified you as someone who provides it. Why you? Because you're kind patient. A good listener. Because you don't set boundaries. Because you feel guilty saying no. So they take, and take, and take, and you give. Because that's what good people do, right? Except, giving without limits isn't kindness, it's self-destruction. Here's the uncomfortable truth, you train them to drain you. Not on purpose, but every time they overshared and you listened, you taught them, this is acceptable. Every time they dumped their problems on you and you absorbed them, you taught them, you're available. Every time you said, I'm fine, when you weren't, you taught them, your needs don't matter. So they keep coming back, because you keep giving, and now you're stuck, because how do you untrain someone without destroying the friendship? How do you set boundaries without seeming cold? How do you say, I need space, without them taking it personally? But you can't, because people who drain you rarely understand they're doing it. They think you're as invested as they are. They think the relationship is balanced. They think you're happy to help because you've never told them otherwise. So, you decide to set a boundary. You stop responding immediately. You say no to plans. You're less available. And they notice. Are you okay? Did I do something wrong? You've been distant lately, and now you feel guilty. Because they're hurt, confused, genuinely wondering what happened, and you can't explain without sounding cruel. You exhaust me. This friendship is one-sided. I don't actually want to hear about your problems anymore. You can't say that. So you reassure them. No, you didn't do anything. I'm just busy. Everything's fine. And the cycle continues. Because here's the trap. Setting boundaries with people who don't respect them feels like punishment. But not setting them? That's self-abandonment. You're stuck between hurting them and hurting yourself. And most people choose themselves to suffer because at least then nobody else is upset. Right? deep breath. Some friendships need to end. Not because someone's terrible, not because something dramatic happened, but because they've become a weight you can't carry anymore. And that's okay. You don't owe anyone a friendship just because it used to work. You don't owe anyone access to you just because they think you're close. People grow, people change, people realize this doesn't serve me anymore. And that's not cruelty, that's self-preservation. The people who drain you most often don't mean to, but that doesn't mean you have to keep letting them. You're allowed to quietly step back, reduce contact, fade out, protect your peace. Not every ending needs a confrontation. Not every boundary needs an explanation. Sometimes you just stop being available, and if they notice and ask, you tell the truth, kindly, firmly. I need more space. I'm focusing on myself right now. I can't be your support system anymore. They might not understand. They might be hurt, but your well-being isn't negotiable. The people who drain you most think you're best friends, and maybe you were, once, but friendships aren't contracts. You're allowed to renegotiate. You're allowed to say, this isn't working for me anymore. Not because they're bad, but because you're tired. And tired is a valid reason to leave. And now, a question for you. Have you ever realized someone was exhausting you, and they had no idea? What did you do? Drop your answer in the comments. Subscribe if you've ever been someone's unpaid therapist without applying for the position. Overthinking Department, where boundaries aren't optional, open 24/7.